There's everybody. And welcome. And Colleen's here too. Okay. Hey, Amy. Good to see you again. Ah,
Good morning from Sydney, Australia.
yes. Wonderful. We've been having some challenges with our Zoom link on their website, so we may have a small group today, but more chances for us to talk to each other. Yeah. Mm. Well, we've sort of been informally keeping to our theme for the year, but ever so subtly. And so and it's really interesting because I don't even look at that model anymore in terms of what we said we might cover this year. And yet every time I pick a topic, it actually somehow magically matches what the topic was supposed to be. So I'm really grateful for that. Um, so I want to welcome any of you that are here for the first time. These are really just informal conversations for us about things that matter and sort of in part as our ongoing campaign, if you will, to explore what's beyond coaching. And so we welcome you. We normally have just a little bit of an introduction from me. Karen is our wonderful co-host and has been for quite some time, which is wonderful. And then we do a little bit of guided meditation, and then we give you an extended time in a breakout room for you to talk with each other. And then we come back together and sort of debrief together. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and as always, you're welcome to raise your hand as we go or put anything in the chat box. Karen's really great at picking that up. Um, but for now, I just want to get us oriented. So, all right. Okay. Wonderful. And I've heard varying versions of who said this, anywhere from Confucius to Winnie the Pooh. But there is, which I think is probably the same person, but um, and it was made famous in a book by one of the founders of the mindfulness movement. But I this theme for today within our Gates model was shadow, which feels again very fitting, as you'll see in just a minute. Um, but I wanted to uh, just share a little bit from the beginning about kind of what would like to focus on for tonight, how I think it's really timely for us. So one of the quotes that we use often in our programs, and many of you are quite familiar with, is Ram Dass's notion of be here now. And I still stand by it. I think it's a wonderful synopsis of our invitation to keep returning to center. And in the light of some things for me in the last week, I began to sort of feel challenged by this phrase. And I want to share a bit of that with you as a setup for what we're going to do together. So I decided to marry this with this infamous scene where the Wicked Witch is trying to steal Dorothy's shoes from the Wizard of Oz. And I remember how as a child, not only being petrified of the monkeys and of a number of other things in that movie, but also this sort of homesickness I felt early in life and the idea of like, what if we could just click our heels and go home to some magical place? And and so I wanted to just talk about this notion of home. And so, as some of you know, I moved to Amsterdam last year, and things have changed a bit at my being here. But I was in the States for a week, came back a couple of days ago, and I feel in this highly liminal state because home, even visiting my mother and old friends I've known for decades, didn't feel like the home it once was. All of that in light of all of the madness that's happening with the current American president made the sense of home be even more difficult. And then when I came back to my home, my house in Amsterdam, it didn't feel like home either because I've only been here less than a year. So I feel like I'm living somewhere over the Atlantic. Um, And I found it very unsettling. And so I started to just, I did some deep meditation um, on this phrase about what is it I'm feeling challenged by in the be here now. And I wanted to share a few thoughts about that, and then we'll do our guided meditation together. And so I took each word by itself and realized as somebody was saying in one of our classes last week, um, uh, thanks, Fiona. She said, it feels like self-regulation for myself is a full-time job now. And I could understand that. And so even to just be feels like more challenging than perhaps in many of our lives up till now. The notion of here, what does here mean? So, I've friends in my dear city of Portland that were attacked yesterday by people deputized by the president. And so the sacred nature of here, of downtown Portland, is not the same now. Um, and what does here mean now in this world where we're both lonely more often than not and hyper connected? So even the notion of here, what does that mean for us now? And then lastly, the word now. And what does it mean to be present to the experience that we're having in a time that sometimes feels overwhelming in the midst of a whole bunch of other things, some of which are quite positive. But this whole notion of be here now just became much more poignant to me this last week, and beginning to wonder how that was affecting the rest of us. And one of the images that we've used a lot through these BCEs is that of a candle. And we've sort of married it in various versions to one of the core teachings from our ID work. Um, and so I drew the candle if it's lit up, but it itself is no longer lit. And I don't mean by that it's out or even that it's a bad thing. But and I feel like we're being asked to study a very different curriculum right now than one that many of us are used to. And so even in your Fair Country Amy, so I saw today that the press club decided not to hear from Chris Hedges, who's an extraordinary speaker about many things in favor of an apologist for Israel's actions in Gaza. So I just thought, wow, another uh, gust of wind on the candle. And so one of the things that has become really important to me in all of this is recognizing that we probably need each other more now than we have before, and we need each other in some new ways. And so while we can't just click our heels and make it all go away, when there's things that are afoot in the world which are challenging, and so even if we assemble with a scarecrow and a lion and a tin man, or our version of that in our life, all of whom are on the same search and realizing that they had their gifts with them the whole time. And so I want to use our time together to explore what all this, where we are at now for each of you, and how is your candle feeling? And then begin to explore together in your breakout room in a little while um, what be here now means for you and how you're helping yourself through this process that we're in around each of these dimensions of being here and now. So I'm happy to hear from anyone if you'd like to share anything thus far. Otherwise, I would like to guide us in a little bit of meditation to take ourselves on a journey to see what reveals itself to us. But either in the chat or speaking up, I would love if any of you would care to share anything.
David, could you take the candle down so we could see the crew?
I can.
Thank you so much.
There they are. Fiona.
Hi, David. Um, as I said to you, like I know where the emotion lies in terms of um, not knowing what exactly a sense of home is,
Hmm.
given with the move, because I had moved to Europe, lived there for 9 years, and then I came back to Canada. And then I moved to the States, moved back to Canada after 19 years.
Hmm.
So I do know the emotion around that. What I wanted to say though is especially when you showed the candle. For me personally, right now, we're living through some dark times. And it doesn't matter where you reside on the political spectrum or on the religious spectrum or whatever. It just there's a lot going on. And I find myself in a situation having, worked with through your work,
Hmm.
having gone through therapy for a variety of reasons. And I find two words coming up repetitively for me, and that is the term emotional safety.
Hmm.
And what your work and having gone through therapy and some other modalities, I find myself for the first time in my life actually understanding and resonating with the
Hmm.
words emotional safety.
Hmm.
And I think if we can focus in on that on ourselves, we can start to help ourselves navigate through some of the challenges. And you asked a question, and for me it's helping myself through less self-judgment, because
Hmm.
boy was I very critical of myself,
Hmm.
right or wrong, good or bad, like it or not, I was. And I'm
Hmm.
lowering the shield on that one.
Hmm. Thank you. What comes up for me when you share that is part of my experience and my observation of coaching clients right now is we sometimes feel obligated that we have to carry all these emotions, that we have to keep them safe. But in reality, I'm finding value in. I just finished Ian McGilchrist's two tomes on his latest thinking about the brain, um, and it was quite helpful in terms of letting the part of me that thinks from the right hemisphere hold all this as an energy in it of itself without feeling any expectation that I need to manage it. And to just let it be. And so I had this imagination, like I said, maybe I can just like give my some of these emotions a timeout on the couch, let them be over there for a while. And one of the signs for me that I'm emerging now from this space I was in was I'm bringing some humor again to dealing with some of these bigger issues, and I find that very helpful. So. And I know sometimes when I went last week when I was having too much of some emotions, I just left some in a box at my mom's house to be recycled. And it said, "You can just stay here. I don't need to bring you back across the ocean." Um, but yeah, thank you. Um, yeah.
As an offering to you, David,
Uh,
I am here for you if you
okay.
would like to
Thank
have
you.
somebody to talk to.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Marcia.
Hello. It was such a treat. I just found this link and it was just the perfect place to be for
Yeah.
today. So thank you. What stirred me about what you're speaking to and I'm moved. It's so interesting to just drop in and this
Hmm.
experience of home. And I listened to resource myself during these times, what's happening in our country, what's happening in the world. Um, I listen to Calm, and one of my favorite sleep stories that just takes me through is Jerome Flynn. It's uh, he talks about come home to your breath.
Mm.
And that somehow, just that phrase, and then when he says that, I tend to just fall asleep. I don't remember anything that happens after that. It's just like, and we breathe, but come home to my breath.
Yeah.
And it's to be here. It's moving to me somehow, just something bubbling up, percolating about that. And we're having a No Kings 2 rally here in my area, and I know all over the United States, but it's like
Mm.
sensing I'm working with my own nervous system, but your reminder, be here now.
Mhm.
It's that, how can I not, isolate, like Fiona, you're saying about emotional safety, but just, we're going to this protest. There were 10,000 people in our little town of Torrance. Jimmy Kimmel was there, and just it just gave it just, being connected outside of myself also gave me strength, coming home to community where I can
Mm.
feel safe, and feel that together we need each other more than ever, as you pointed out.
Mm.
So I'm grateful to be here with community, and also knowing that I can, I've been practicing, I'm just beginner with this, but the mindfulness of the see, feel, hear,
Mhm.
and just dropping in is these micro hits of feel in, I have this emotion right here now. Feel in, noting, labeling, and allowing, and
Mhm.
not feeling like, gosh, I have to be safe. I have to hide out.
Mhm.
Because I feel like the more aligned and courageous I could be of joining others to take a stand for what is good, what we care about, and not have others be alone in that. I could be alone, but not, I don't have to isolate. That's the point I wanted to make. Thank you for bearing with me till I got to that. But yeah, there's something you're bringing up
Mm.
that's so profound, is how do we regulate our nervous systems to be able to adapt
Mhm.
and have the courage to get outside of our fear of being harmed, um,
Mhm.
by a perceived government that is stronger than we are, that
Mhm.
is working in directions that I don't want to go in, I will not
Mhm.
go in. And how do we have our voice be heard in that? I love what the question you ask, and then I'll be silent. Is um, gust of wind on the candle. Looking at exploring, how is your candle feeling with all these gusts of wind? It's not
Mm.
blowing out my candle, but
Mm.
it's wearing thin. How do we resource ourselves? And all I want to say at this moment is thank you for listening, for me emoting in the way that I am, because I'm seeing I'm not alone,
Mm.
and I can be if I choose to. I can
Thank
be with the feeling of it.
thank you. Colleen, oh, you moved.
I did.
I'm going to find you again on my screen. There you
It's
are.
my doppelganger.
I know. Wow, it's your twin sister.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great to see you again, David. You as well, Karen, and everyone else. Um, a few thoughts when with the sharing that I've heard with the notion of home.
Mhm.
It reminded me of what a friend and colleague had shared with me a while ago. And it was from Commander Chris Hadfield, who was on the space station, I don't know when, but it was a number of months. And he had commented that when he looked back from the space station at the planet, at our planet Earth, he recognized that that is home. This is home.
Mhm.
And I think all too often we don't necessarily see that or recognize that in spite of where we might plant our feet on planet Earth, in essence, we all share the planet and it is home to everything that's here. And I find, a great deal of grounding in that for myself. And also in thinking about, we're so bombarded from friends, from social media, news, etc., with all of this negativity and darkness that surrounds us. And yet, I also recall hearing Dr. John Campbell say many, many times, there is always hope.
Mm.
And so for me, I remind myself of those things, that no matter how ugly the world may look,
Mm.
that I believe in the human spirit. And just thinking about the collection of people that are here today, I have hope that we all have the ability to support ourselves, but also to support others around us.
Mm.
And in thinking about what Marcia is, I hope it's Marcia, not Marcia, just shared, I was away on vacation in early September, and we're in a restaurant, and a younger gentleman in there was wearing a black t-shirt. And on the t-shirt on the back, it said, "The brave lead, the free follow."
Mm.
And my husband stopped and asked him about that. And he said, "Well, my brother is a Marine."
Mm.
My husband was so moved by that emotionally, it brought tears to his eyes.
Mm.
And when you think about that, in ways, all of us are the brave, and we're there to support others to follow. And
Mhm.
that's my comment.
Thank you. All right. Um, so I'd like to just share a couple of reflections on these wonderful sharings and the suggestions I read in the chat box. So I think one of the things that I sort of emerged from this last week, which is sort of where this session came from, around this notion of when we bump into our shadow, it seems everywhere at the moment. Our shadow is just, coming right at us. There's a temptation to turn on the floodlights so we can make the darkness go away. And so one of the things I've been experimenting with, which is why I put up the picture of the candle with no flame. Um, to Because I feel like if we don't allow ourselves to sit with it, we will chase after whatever lights come our way to make the pain go away. And so you bump into all of your vices of shopping or distraction or binge watching or being angry or whatever we choose to do to try to bring the candle to light again. And so the unlit candle is just one of the many states. The candle just stays the same. So of an internal candle, it just happens to be maybe out for the moment. But I don't, part of what I realized was that the work for me to do was to sit with my discomfort as opposed to solve it. And which is not easy, as we all know. And I've been studying this kind of work for 50 years, and it's still not easy in some ways. But my invitation is that all of what we just heard is true and wonderful and important. And I want us just to imagine one of the things we talked about in our retreat this week was around the return to instinctual behavior, our innate self, our true and full self, as opposed to our highly manicured self that shows up in the world that we live in so we can get clients and be liked by friends and etc. And so there is a certain kind of going back to the base that feels important in this time, but it starts by letting the candle just be what it is for right now, knowing full well that all these things we also heard and see are there for us as well. And yeah, and yeah. And the last thing I'll say about that is, I think I don't know if I shared that here before, but I was working on a project with the EMCC, the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, on using the five maturities to help them reimagine professional development. And in that encounter, we ended up at the very end presenting our findings, and a group shared about their process with about 350 people that were on a Zoom call. And it was quite moving. And one of the things that we realized was that this group of six people, including myself, you could not pick a more diverse group of people if you tried. And oftentimes, when you have diverse groups, everybody's competing for attention, everybody's trying to get their needs met, which then annoys the other half of the group. And what we noticed about this particular group was that without any intention or notice, we let each person be truly exactly themselves. And what we discovered was that everybody's gifts were important to our process, but often not at the time they presented it. And so by holding space for all of the gifts to be present, we could call on them as we got to a point in the conversation where that gift, say for a high need of structure and order, became useful to us. And so I look at that here, that we're each bringing our own take on the current environment. We're each bringing our own strategies. And the purpose of that is for us to express ourselves, knowing that something in that will be useful to us and perhaps others as we move along, but we don't need to resolve it all right now. So one more thought from Fiona, and then we'll jump into our guided meditation.
David, it's just a quick question,
Yes,
if I may ask you that personal question.
sure.
Does it help you at all recognizing the impermanence of whatever it is that you're sitting with at the time? You know, you're using the candle analogy or metaphor. Does that help you at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also been around, having done spiritual work most of my life, I've been around enough bypassing to recognize that people throw out the word impermanence. Let me put it this way, that many people cling to the notion of impermanence, which seems quite ironic to me. And so for me, as I was sitting with my nearly 92-year-old mother, the idea of impermanence becomes very important to me. And so for me, I think it's a yes and. So I'm a big fan of things like Taoism, but I also love Zorba the Greek. So I love the sense of the willingness to experience permanence in whatever form it is in right now, while simultaneously holding the impermanence of it all. But both are real and true for me. Because otherwise you drift off anyway. So I don't want to digress too far, but sometimes you drift off into impermanence and don't, I find, learn enough from what's actually present.
Mm.
Yeah. It's too easy to whitewash things with it. It's all impermanent. Which is true, which has its own cave to explore, if you will. But I just feel like I started this whole thing with the Wizard of Oz, so I want to just get away from magical thinking about all this. That all of this will go away and it'll all be better tomorrow. And we're in for a long ride here. And I feel like this. How do we be here in this now? Is going to call us into some new places in our own journeys and with each other.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So for this, I'm just for those of you who might be new, I'm just going to put the graphic up so you can see this. Which one is it going to be? We'll guess this one. Okay, excellent. So we have a process, the full circle we've done in many forms over the last 2 years. I see it as sort of developmental meditation. We're developing ourselves through meditative processes. And so we're going to pay a lot of attention to our in and out breath for a few minutes. I love this graphic. And again, I want to come back to how do we allow ourselves to stay fully present while recognizing it's all impermanent? Okay. So for now, we'll just do this for a few minutes, and then Karen will organize us into some breakout rooms when we get done. And then I've got 3 questions, and I'll put up that slide when we're done. But for now, you don't have to worry about them. I want you just to close your eyes and relax. If you prefer, you can turn off your screen, your camera, and then we'll just have a little meditation for ourselves. And as we begin, would like to invite you just to notice your breath. Nothing to do that's special, just notice it as it goes in and out. And on your next out breath, I'd like to invite you just to release anything that's building up in you or that you're holding on to in yourself. Just let it go. And on your next in breath, I would like you to imagine that that breath is filling up your entire body. And as you breathe, you start to notice more and more the contours of your body that is here now. And with that, you might notice any point in which your body is in contact with something else, like a chair. Perhaps you'll wiggle your shoulders and your body to make contact with the air and see how you're sitting. As you draw your attention to your breathing in and out, what if you were to imagine that you're being breathed by the cosmos? That your breathing is not an effort of your own, but you're held in a space with everyone else that's here, who is breathing with you. What if your breathing was not all alone? Even as your breathing is uniquely yours. As you drop further into your breath, I'd like you just to draw into your mind's eye a candle, the candle of you. Without any need to change it or judge it. What do you notice about the candle right now? And what comes up for you as you imagine it that way? What does it say for you? And lastly, I'd like us to return to this phrase of be here now. So as you scan your body, what do you notice about your beingness How are you? Are you aware of any longing in your being? Next, I'd like us to focus on the word here. Where are you? In yourself and in the world? What does here mean to you now? Is there anything you need to feel more at home? And lastly, what does now mean to you? How are you holding time? Are you somewhere in time besides now? And finally, I'd like you just to imagine what do you draw on that is equivalent to your own sparkly red slippers? What do you find most comforting and informing as you work to be here now? And in closing, look, just return to the candle. And as you enter into your small groups, what is it like to be with the candle as it is for you today? Knowing that it's just today. And what is it inviting you to learn and pay attention to? When you're ready, I'd like you to open your eyes and come back to the room. And then I'm going to give you a few minutes to take any notes you want for yourself while Karen sets up the rooms for 30 minutes. I'm going to put up the questions I would like you to take into your breakout rooms, and Karen will put them in the chat box for you too when she's ready. She already did.
And if anybody needs to leave, just send me a note if you're before the breakouts, and I'll readjust things.
Okay. You all set, Karen?
Yes, I am.
All
We
right.
have 3 rooms that have 2 people and 3 rooms that have 3 people.
Okay, great.
So just if you're in there, just know. Okay, that's
Enjoy.
rooms 4, 5, and 6 that just have 2. And if for some reason someone drops off, come back and we'll reassign you. Okay, take care. We'll see you in 30 minutes.
Oops.
I can put
Oh,
you
that's
back if you want.
oh, I don't know what happened. The time went really fast.
But thank
Well,
you,
that's
Brenda. It was
weird.
wonderful.
Something, maybe
Thank
I
you
did
as well.
something.
That's okay.
Hmm.
Everybody's back now.
I must have done a little something there,
Yeah.
or maybe not. Maybe it's just time.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
just time. I think it's
I
time.
don't- It must be time. Anyway, we're glad you're here, Brent.
So we're just in our, we've got plenty of time for you to share and reflect, but I'm mostly just curious about, as a place to start, what are you aware of now after this conversation with your friends? And I'll take this back down so we can see each other again. Hmm. Hmm. Fiona, and then Ellen.
I'm very grateful for the time, or Karen, for you putting me with the 2 women that I was with. I was with Jenny and Amy.
Okay.
And towards the end of the conversation, the awareness that I had was, David, your 3 questions of how are you being, how do you feel here, and how is your now? That in and of itself is kind of the grounding technique
Hmm.
to bring you home,
Yeah.
as you were talking about. As a constant reminder, like it doesn't matter what's going on out there, whether it's heavy, whether it's dark, whether it's, describe it how you wish. I think a self-reminder to answer those 3 questions for you, or to answer those questions for yourself, helps you to certainly manage your nervous system,
Hmm.
to kind of get outside of your head,
Hmm.
maybe get in your head, I don't know. I thought it was a beautiful exercise to be in with the 2 ladies, so thank you.
Great. Ellen. You are.
I'm aware of feeling very peaceful right now.
Mhm.
The connections with the other 2 women in my group were very meaningful. And one of the things that really struck me was the ways in which developmental differences among us seem to be reflected in the ways in which we responded to the questions.
Okay.
And those of us further along, in the 4th quarter of life, that being aware of losses,
Hmm.
and for me, it's a sense of, not just personal losses, but what's going on in the world creates such a profound sense of loss for me.
Hmm.
A loss of things that I believed in, a loss of things that a loss of kind of even how I feel oriented, and I feel very disoriented.
Hmm.
um, that that it's much easier to hold that if I and it's actually more natural to focus more on what is present in any given moment. That loss kind of opens you up to that.
Mhm. Mm. Thank you. Mm. Are there others who would like to share what feels important to them? Mm. Marcia.
Yes, thank you. I'm really so grateful to you, Brenda. Um, we seem to be in parallel worlds, even though you're so many thousands of miles away. It's like there's connection. And what I'm aware of, a lot of what Ellen was speaking to as well, um, is this sense of the metaphor of the candle is so profound for me. It's that my candle right now is flickering. It's not out, but there are times when it goes out,
Mm.
and it just, it's overwhelming sometimes and feeling powerless. But what I'm aware of is it's out now. And it's connecting with Brenda, connecting with you, connecting with this community that that's where I get my ruby red slippers. That's where kind of
Mhm.
coming home to a sense of belonging. And then when their candles out, being um, there, not fixing anything, but being there for that person or that community, even if it's on the other side of the world. My heart's breaking for the people in Gaza. And I've been to Israel many times, and it's part of my heritage. But my heart is breaking for people suffering. And it's like, it's not taking sides, this side or that side, but I just sense I have an experience in the now of my my candle extinguished when I recognize what's going on all
Mm.
those thousands of miles away. It's like this is not the world that it feels like a loss. And and then connecting with others, I, I I guess what I'm really struggling to grappling with is I'm aware of this sense of moving in and out of impermanence, moving in and out of the now. Like right now is my candle's flickering, and a minute ago, when I was talking about Gaza, it was extinguished. It's like there's external circumstances that affect this candle.
Mm.
Um, but I'm aware of that I could be with whatever is happening, um, with my energy, with my love, with my light of who I am right now in the world, either individually or collectively. That I could be there for others. Brenda and I were talking about that, and also resourcing myself with others. So that's what I like to share.
Mm. Mm. What that brings up for me, Mercia's mentioned this before, but one of the life-changing books I read when I was young, of the many I read, was Nikos Kazantzakis' Zorba the Greek. I don't know what it would seem to me now if I read it now, all these years later. But one of the things that really struck me in the middle of my white upper middle class neighborhood in California was that his character, whatever he was experiencing, he did it 100%. So if he was experiencing loss, he went all into the grief. If he was in joy, he would dance all night. And if he felt alienated from God, he would be grumble in the desert. And if he felt close to God, he would go pray for days. And well, it seems like a bit much for me, but I really was struck by that. And so I guess part of the message, if you will, from tonight is that, each of us has a different candle right now. We have different candles, as you said, Marcia, in many moments. Um, and so it's just the invitation of knowing that we can be many people and many selves, and inviting ourselves to not have to rush to find a lighter when the candle goes out, but just to sit and respect and honor and the candle for its current state. And as I think somebody, Swanji was saying, that loss can mean many things. It can mean freedom. It can mean gratitude. It can mean sorrow. It can mean so many things, and often it can mean all those things. Um, and so really the invitation for today was to just I wanted to move away. I sort of felt like this sort of be here now had become a cliche. And I thought, what does that really mean? And what does it really take? It's not about the purity of mindfulness. There's a much more existentialist flavor to me now. And so if we feel angry, be angry. And then how do we channel our anger in a way that's constructive, right? Um, if we want to pretend like we're going back to Kansas, because that makes us feel better for a few minutes because it all got to be too much, click your heels, go for it. Right? Yeah, I'll stop there. But yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, Swanji, tell us some more about what you're writing and what you're thinking.
We brought up Nikki and I, we were a two lady group. We brought up this connection between being, feeling, being in the here, how is your now, all of that connectedness, how important it is, and how important boundaries are
Okay.
in this connection. Because when I listen to you just now, David, keeping the candle going and all of that stuff, get your lighter to relight it. We're in for the long haul.
Yep.
We're in for the long haul to support ourselves. We are resourcing others. We're in for the long haul. And what are the boundaries we need for all our being, for our emotions, and how can we be in a way that is sustaining and sustaining others? And that goes hand in hand with boundaries. Where are my needs? Where do I just shut off? Where do I just go into nature? Where do I go off grid? Where do I go to Zumba? Where do I do, understand I need some physical shake up, because we're not just drawing on the brain, on the, on the mind. We're drawing on all these different ways of beings and energy, and people rely on us. So it's fabulous to be here. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Good to have you.
So I just wanted to add, thank you.
Yeah,
It was a great discussion. So my ruby slippers was Zumba, as was mentioned, because your question's very profound. I probably will journal into them a bit later, but my being at the moment is very much in my head. In terms of the intensity of the work, the clients that are coming to me, the spaces that I need to hold, either sort of therapeutically or as a coach. So I just needed, as Svante said, just shake it all out and have someone else kind of facilitate the space. Off I stomped in my not ruby slippers to the community center. So that was great. But the metaphor of the candle is really deep, because and that not to rush in and, as you said, to light it, because I'm thinking of a candle, not just my candle, but even the country. So I'm in the UK, and it's quite depressing to think, all this time you believe, I believe, let's say in progress. I'm talking about the state of the nation and the division that's going on. So yeah, and opening up. So we spoke about emotional safety. So I facilitate groups, but I think there's also a call for bravery, psychological bravery, calling out. I don't even know what to call it, but you know, different people's opinions about what's happening. I'll leave it there for us to get too political, but thank you.
Yeah. I used to have, maybe someday I'll do it. Maybe somebody will be courageous and invite me to their country. I always wanted to do this workshop where I would bring a curated soundtrack and I would put on the soundtrack and you had to move around the room based on the song that was playing at that time. And I did it in small doses when I would do some leadership programs when we had earbuds and things. But I think I would like to do that collectively and to see how people show up and relate to each other based on the music and what it allows them to express that they might not be able to express easily on their own. And I think the other analogy about this be here now is sometimes being here now is not the place to be because it's calling you to do something that's not what you're feeling called to do. And so, and other times it's a call to be exactly here now. So I think of those people protesting in the UK and being carted off because they dared to say the word Palestine, right? And so what is that? And so I think it's just part of what I'm hoping that we all will take this, and I'm feeling quite buoyed by this actually. It's just an invitation to, again, my favorite phrase about this moment being our curriculum, and what are maybe being asked to stretch in some new ways, or retreating to Zumba because we're not taking enough care for ourselves, and dusting off our red slippers, right? But the freedom to be conscious of ourselves and what we need now and what others around us need now, and what about that we might want to do something. Yeah. Right. Just have a minute or so. Is there anybody who hasn't shared that would like to share for now and or write something in the chat box before we go?
I just want to thank you, David, for the opportunity to connect to these feelings in a community.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for each of you for being here now, and to David, especially today.
David, you know how I feel. This is a very much of a monthly balm.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, I wish you well, however your candle is, however it needs to be, and we'll see you again next month.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Bye
Bye,
for now.
David.
Thanks, Karen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.